David Lee Hubbard. Welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. Kudos to Suzanne for reaching out to me to get you on the program, make this interview possible. You have written a book, An American 007, I believe it's called, and it's available as a PDF file that people can access, but and also can be bought on Amazon, I believe. So, and there's so much in that book and so much that you feel that is worth enlightening people about in this crazy world time. So why don't you introduce yourself and say whatever it is that you want to say.
Well, to start off with, Andrew, thank you for having me on. That's the most important thing is that you're giving exposure to this book. It's basically a revealing moment in an agent's life that he sort of got to after 20 years of friendship concerning something called the Greada Treaty, which most people don't really know too much about, but it is actually a treaty with two alien groups and the US government, the Pentagon, and Eisenhower, signed in 1954. I developed a friendship with him after writing a book called Coming to Order about the New World Order and the Great White Brotherhood, which I published in 1999. And because of that publishing, as a CIA agent, I guess he came to investigate me. And we became friends. When I found out the book tells a story about how he was investigating me and how I found out. And we became friends. And after a number of years, he started to open up to me about his true background. Was a mystery to most people. So he had a true double life. He was a well-known agent. He was a well-known in the circles that he was in, the secret circles, the intelligence services. But as far as the rest of the world, they thought of him as a fine artist, a music mogul, recording studio owner. So he had a profile that was within the arts that nobody suspected that in his private life, every couple of weeks, he would be flying out to some place around the world on behalf of the CIA.
Thank you. So this time that America is in, hearing a lot of crazy things are going to be happening in the upcoming near future. Just listen to Patricia Corey, one of her interviews, talking about how America is basically going to be like the last one to fall. Is that going to be happening next April, maybe, when we got that eclipse that's coming across the country, or is it actually going to be sooner? Because Bull Pony who's spews biblical prophecy, has been talking a lot about like some sort of a stock market crash that's basically supposed to happen in November, December-ish kind of frame.
Mm-hmm.
And is that resonate in any way with your work and what may be happening in the future?
It turns out that the Greada Treaty underlies everything. When we look at this whole push of the environmentalists to remove the carbon dioxide, remove nitrogen, now it's basically removing oxygen by burying trees. So something is going on. Mike Adams famously said, well, it looks like they want to remove our entire atmosphere. And that actually is accurate. One of the two groups that signed the Greada Treaty, called the Plasmatics, they are a non-breathing species and they absorb through their skin nutrients, and coming into our atmosphere would be like them drowning in a pool. The water in the atmosphere, everything here would be antagonistic to them. And when they signed the treaty, there was a timeline, and time is up.
Okay, time is up. So regarding how much time do we have to fix ourselves to make sure this world becomes a better place? I mean, is everything on? It's all the humans that have to fix everything, because there's really no more of the bad guys anymore. Because they say the overlords are gone, the Draco overlords. They're basically out of the galaxy right now. The all the problems that are in the on the Earth are basically problems that humans need to resolve. but there still is some system of domination and control that exists on planet Earth. But it's not got Odie overlord aspect to it. Anything you have to say about that? Like, the powers that be don't have any overlords to go to anymore to come to their rescue in the
Well,
event.
the reptilians are still with us, unfortunately. They're one of the two co-signers of the treaty. And how they're with us is they've managed to hybridize with the humans that they, I guess, took on board, removed the eggs, sperm, however they managed to do their hybridization. But in the book, I show a close-up of a friend of mine, Dr. Patrick Flanagan, who recently died. And so I can talk about the fact that he is a half-breed. His eyes turned to a reptilian's eyes in front of me for about 6 seconds. And I had a witness. My girlfriend was standing beside me. So there's no question that there are reptilian half-breeds here. And that's the real concern, is in a situation of War of the Worlds, which is possibly coming up if I can help it, we have to contend with an alien species that can stand on this earth and successfully. I mean, if you look at Patrick Flanagan's work, between the age of 18 and 35, he registered 300 patents, which is one patent every month, which is an unbelievable thing to accomplish on its own. So they are successful to be on this planet and far advanced of us. So that's the reptilian aspect. The plasmatics, the non-breathers, they're both here. So we have to deal with it. And I've got books going to the Pentagon, to the Assistant Secretary of Defense, Kathleen Hicks, hopefully in the next day or two. She was supposed to arrive today. And I'm going to propose to her that with the knowledge that I have now, we can tear up the Greada Treaty and give them a deadline to get off the planet by April 7th. So that's my platform with her. I'm waiting to speak to her about it, but let's hope that we can make that a reality.
Mm-hmm.
The reptilians, by the way, it's in the treaty. They want to eat us. And in fact, Jeffrey Liu, the secret agent that I report on, he told me that directly. And that was also the direct quote by someone that Mike Adams was interviewing named David Wilcox. And he said the same thing: the reptilians want to eat us. So these are two separate confirmations of something within a treaty that is the most top secret on the planet, is the Greada Treaty.
Great. So as far as technologies released to the public go, the idea that med beds will be available to everybody to heal things.
Mm-hmm.
We've been down this road before because people have said the med beds will be available by X date, and well, it didn't come, but not public to everybody. But what exactly is the deal? Do you have any idea with the technology, not just the med beds, but let's just say any sort of technology that the system of domination and control keeps suppressed, that the that the status quo would not want to release, because the status quo involves all sorts of technologies that does not allow for the advancement of humanity, and we just want to be done with that. But we have to roll it out in some way that's going to not be too much of a shock to the system, but at the same time, want to make sure I roll it out in the right way. Like, we don't want people who don't need it, don't get it. Like the whole med bed thing, like they say it's only good for people who are truly ill. It's not like something that everybody can receive just because you think you need a med bed. It's the people that are really sick that are going to get it. So is that true with all the technologies, and what do you see with that?
I have a pretty good idea about the technology, specifically because I landed up saying yes to the aliens, whereas my friend, he said no. When he found out in the treaty that they wanted to eat us, he backed away from that. That was in the 60s when Rockefeller brought him into the CIA, and he read the Greada Treaty several times and passed it to other people. So he was clear about exactly what was going on, and he backed away and didn't want to get involved. You'd have to look at his life and what he was doing at the time that it would make sense that he would be, it would be unappealing to a jet setter like him at the time. Whereas my cooperation, I was working with a different alien group, ones who were on the moon, and that was for the Canadian military. But I started working with them many years before I started working with them with the Canadian military. So I already established a relationship with them. So I was able to then segue that over to Canadian military intelligence. It's all explained in the book.
Right.
The book's really very
Right.
explicative of all of this.
Right.
You know, it would all
Yes.
make a lot of sense. It ties it all together in a neat package as far as understanding my backstory, Jeffrey's backstory, and how we landed up meeting. And then out of something called the Urantia Book, which is central to what I'm presenting, because it's a revelatory document which has been suppressed up until, well, it was published in 55 and it continues its suppression. Uh, it's been translated into 28 languages, yet still in America, it's not really known and understood. But within those pages, it explains exactly where those reptilians and plasmatics came from. They've been circling through our solar system every 6,000 years for the last 4.5 billion years. They're part of the accident that formed our planetary system. So that's all explained in clear detail. So once one reads that, you have a clear idea about why our planets are so different, why we would have a hollow center in the planet, who is Lucifer and what is the whole rebellion that we're involved in, and why is this all coming to a head right now, the fight of good and evil. And the good news is our planetary prince is Jesus, and he is going to be returning soon. And the main reason he's going to be returning is that he made a decision that he was going to quarantine all of the planets that were involved with Lucifer. And that's a total of 37 planets. So the plasmatics and the reptilians are two of those planets, and they are not allowed on this planet altogether. So when he returns, and that's, I believe, within the next 6 months, my personal feelings, it's tied into exactly what you brought up initially, which is that April 8th and that second eclipse. There's an X on America, and that was, I believe, the sign in the heavens. And that's especially a sign for people who are readers of the Urantia Book, because we were all cued in on the fact that this first eclipse happened in April 7 on August 21st, 2017. So 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago. And that eclipse, the 21st, the date itself is not meaningful to any group. It's not part of any solstice, or it's no holiday whatsoever. August 21st is a non-day. But to Urantia Book readers around the world, August 21st is the day that Jesus was born. That's the day that was reported. And April 8th, which is April 9th, will be April 9th in the Holy Land. That was the day of his resurrection. So we're given two specific days with a bigger cross across America. I myself, I think, have been called specifically because of the trajectory of that eclipse and information that I had for the last 47 years about all these elements interplaying, so that I was in a position with this key that this agent gave me to finally put the pieces together and realize that everything was tied up in that treaty. And why Jesus had to return, because he has to enforce this quarantine, and those aliens have to be off this planet by the time he returns. Otherwise, they will be removed. The technology will be gone as well. What we have a big danger of is those two planets that they are on, the plasmatics and the reptilians, they are doomed, because, and this is something that I saw personally, and so did the agent. We both saw the video of a small sun hitting a solar tongue and beginning a 28-day orbit around our sun. So the small brown dwarf star, part of the Nibiru system, made a collision, which is why that particular group, the Anunnaki and all that are involved with that, as well as the Aryans, who were, I guess, in league with these alien groups and building pyramids and moving large stones, that was an alien endeavor with the Aryans. So this is all coming to a head. And the fact is that there's only one person who can save us in this, and that's our planetary prince. It's well beyond anything that we can think about in terms of the real power. And that's what Eisenhower realized. And he just bought us time by agreeing to allow those reptilians to eat us at a rate of something like 1 million a year. And they like our children, unfortunately. And in exchange for technology like fiber optics, the computer chip, DNA analyzer, night vision, a whole series of technologies that we didn't develop. So consequently, it ultimately disempowers us, which is the problem with taking things out of the evolutionary stage and moving into revolutionary. So that technology, and I believe ultimately, because of the disaster that will happen when those two planets return, which is imminent, I believe most of this technology and unfortunately most of the people on the planet will be wiped out. So it's going to be in fact, the Urantia book talks about it, and it talks about the fact that a planet, knowing that there is the potential for a worldwide catastrophe, it says very clearly in my book, I republished it, that there is another planet already prepared for our evacuation. So this is what the whole concept of the rapture is, will be taken up. It says the salvable population will be removed from the planet and taken to this other planet. And they actually tell us about that other planet quite a bit. There's a section called Government on a Neighboring Planet, and they tell us all about what's happening on that planet, the continents, how life has evolved, the similarities between our two backgrounds, which makes it possible for our culture to be able to exist within their realm, because they are involved still in defensive wars. So there is one great civilization, but there is still war on that planet. So I think that they're going to give us one of those continents. I think there are 9 other continents there. So we'll have a home. I mean, there's a wonderful movie that I saw them take the people off the planet and bring the kids to a new planet at the end with and I believe that's ultimately what could happen. I don't think they would have told us about this other planet. They wouldn't have told us about the possibility, if there is a worldwide calamity, that they will remove us. So I think it's a very real possibility.
Yes, and it's interesting how you mentioned the dates, like of the last eclipse in 2017, and the significance of that tying into Christ, and the April thing tying into Christ. I don't think I've ever heard that before. It's kind of new. But I guess I'd like to ask you about your book, the American 007, the whole 007 part. James Bond is based on another character. Who was it who put his signature 007? Was it someone in British Secret Service who James Bond is based on?
Philby? No, it's not
What?
Philby. It wasn't Philby, was it? No.
No, it was um anyway, but um is there anything in the I guess the James Bond films that you have seen that's truth under the guise of fiction that you think are pointing out? Because a lot of movies are truth under the guise of fiction, and the James Bond movies are probably no exception. Some of them anyway. So do you
For
have
sure, for sure.
anything? Yeah. So you say for sure. So which ones in particular?
Well, my experiences with Jeffrey that I've tried to outline um, shows exactly how a double life can happen within the Secret Service. It's the clandestine services require that. It's not necessarily an evil element. It's an element of how things are done, and it's a trade. It's an art, and those who are successful at it, like Jeffrey, I mean, I explain exactly why he was successful, because of his upbringing. I contrast my upbringing with his upbringing. So there's we have a clear understanding about how someone like Jeffrey could exist within the CIA. And at the end, I do talk about his potential for going to this trial of Lucifer versus Gabriel. It's ultimate, the ultimate trial of whether you continue on as a being, as a personality, or you don't. You become as if you never were. So ultimately, that's what the book Lily talks about in terms of this particular agent and my efforts to try and be the positive light to represent Jesus in his life and the Urantia Book, the positive things that the Urantia Book talk about in terms of the reality of spirituality. He was also a Urantia Book reader. We met on stage at the Urantia conference, so he was familiar with the material, but that didn't mean he embraced it. And he truly believed that he could be a slave to two masters. And I don't know if I empowered him in that effort, because I definitely kept him on the white square. And I know that love and his love of his seventh wife, who we all became friends with, she was a part of actually doing that. I think that's the savior for those who are going down a dark path, is love. It's the voice of God speaking to them, saying this is the way. And I think that, I mean, he said the previous 6 marriages, he said he feigned love. So I think that there's a wonderful lesson in that about how he was relieved of the dark side. I mean, I even talk about how he developed stigmata because of the trying to become a Jesuit and studying black magic with Ivan Illich. He developed stigmata, which nobody in the CIA, their doctors, they couldn't stop it. He went to the Dalai Lama's trainer. He couldn't stop it. And it turned out that a friend of his, a producer named Godfrey Riggio, a famous film producer, he said, I knew this woman that can help you out, overcome this evil spirit that is living within your personality. And so I described the story about how he managed to overcome that. It's encouraging in a sense, because it helps us to see that the dark side really wants us to fear that. When that woman who was the person who explained how to overcome it, she basically said he has to show a lack of interest. That it just doesn't faze him, not interested, and brushed it off. And I think apparently, if you brush off these evil spirits that do exist, then you can be saved. You can be saved by love. So it's possible he will continue on in eternity in some capacity, hopefully within my group, which is the Celestial Artisans. So it does present a positive side, but ultimately we are facing an alien threat. We're facing War of the Worlds potential. We're facing the return of Nibiru and the trashing of our planet if it flips over our poles. So there's many things over the next 6 months, less than 6 months now, that can happen. But if we manage to survive, or whoever manages to survive, whether it's the war coming up or it's the planet flipping over, we have to try and survive. If you believe in God and believe in Jesus, then we have to try and survive.
Exactly. Well, that we have to try to survive, but we don't want to live a life of survival mode, because it's kind of not the best way to live your life, to think about survival all the time. That's and on a related note, you also don't want to live your life in a poverty consciousness.
Right, but that won't happen. As I said, if there is a disaster, we'll be taken off the planet. And I mean, if the power goes out and we have a meltdown of 99 nuclear sites, in America is going to be trashed. So, and what happens if the planet flips over and all of those nuclear sites around the world go critical? All of that goes in the ocean. I mean, the ocean will be destroyed. So there's information in the Urantia Book talking about the miracles that Jesus did. And they make a very clear point about the fact that Jesus decided he didn't want to draw people to a knowledge of God through miracles. He wanted to do it through the gospel. The gospel of the kingdom had to be the thing. It had to be developing faith. It's only through faith that you find God. So he was not concerned about the half-hearted. But we have a concern here because we do have a culture and civilization. We're Jesus' children, so we're the chosen ones in that sense, and we need to survive. And he knows that. He's not leaving us on a trash planet. So when you look at the way in which they accomplished the miracles, all of them had one feature in common, and that they were all employing the speeding up of time. And the individuals who were discuss this, we're making a clear point that they have that ability to speed up time. They did it with the removal of his body. They used that term. They said that when Jesus was lying in the tomb, they they didn't want to see his slow decay of his body of their master. They wanted, and they were given permission to dispose of his body immediately. So in one split second, he was gone, and that's what burnt the Shroud of Turin. It's a real deal. So we see that there is this possibility of the speeding up of time, and even the Bible talks about this shortening of time for the elect. And that's what it really is about. They have the ability to rebuild our planet in a split second, probably, get rid of all the nuclear stuff, everything, restore our planet completely. They have that ability. This is the planet of the cross. This is Jesus' home world of 10 million. So we are, in a sense, we were chosen because we were the darkest, blackest background to lead the perfect white life. And that's what he did. But at the same time, we have to recognize that we have a problematic world, and but we've got the best leader to lead us through that. So Jesus wants the gospel to continue beyond the disaster. So it really behooves, especially those who follow God and believe in Jesus, to survive, to find a way to survive.
All right. Just at this point, I think I'll make the last 10 minutes or so of this interview pay-per-view only. So Patreon subscribers, please, please subscribe to Patreon to listen to the rest of this. Nothing wrong with
Of
it's
you
going to get
making a
all,
living.
yeah, make a living. I work as a
Right.
dishwasher at Whole Foods, which I think is a dream come true. You can't really get much more spiritual than washing dishes, and nobody can get good food unless their dishes are clean. So
That's right.